What's up, guys? I hope you guys had an amazing day today. Let's get right into the video. The main reason I'm currently short the overall market is because the VIX is trading outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band. When we are closed and basically showing this much weakness outside of the lower standard deviation of, especially on the VIX, usually leads to a nice little bounce or a rebound in the VIX. So what we did was we bought calls on the UVXY, and we can take a look at it. And you can see that UVXY is also very overextended to the downside. And I said I was going to buy it light. If we end up really falling much lower tomorrow, I'm going to most likely average down. And yeah, that's really my thesis for what the overall market should be doing. I personally think that the market should get a bit of a rebound, but you know, of course, anything can really happen with tomorrow. We have the Fed minutes, we have a bunch of other things going on as well. I'm not really going to let that, affect much of the day trading that we're going to be doing tomorrow. But yeah, overall, I am swinging short. I am long the UVXY, and I think that if we do end up gapping up tomorrow, I'm going to scale into... So basically, my thought is if we gap up on the SPY, we closed pretty strong, right? So if we gap up and we're at 401, 402 for some reason, right? Then the VIX is going to be much lower, and that would be an even better buying opportunity, in my opinion. So either way, I mean, this is a high probability trade where we are long on the UVX, or we're long on the UVXY, and conversely, we're short on the SPY. We bought SPY puts. So overall, I mean, you can see that there's very, very little history where we close outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band on the VIX with this much strength, right? Where we don't get at least a bit of a pop. So you can see here, we closed at 25.74. The next day we opened at 26.92. So over here, we closed at 27.25. We opened at 27.50. Obviously, that wasn't a huge bounce, right? But you can see that in the past, whenever we did get some sort of, whatever we did close or show some sort of weakness outside of the lower bands here, that was a pretty good indication that we are very, very overextended to the downside. And you can see it rarely ever happens. So if we're gonna trade based off of this, you might as well trade something where it rarely ever happens, and when it does happen, there's a good chance of bounces happening regardless. So yeah, that's my thesis. That's my overall thought process, and the reason why I want to average in a bit lower is, there are instances where we do end up falling a bit lower the next day, but then we get a very big pop. So yeah, overall, I'm light. But, if there was ever a time to scale into a position, it's something like this where we have a pretty good likelihood where the trade works in our favor. And it is what it is. Shoot or shoot, right? And then, of course, that obviously brings us to the overall stock market, the SPY. We can take a look at everything. Obviously, the Russell started showing a lot of strength towards the end of the day. But overall today, the NASDAQ was the biggest winner, but there were obviously certain times throughout the day where the Russell was showing more strength than the NASDAQ, etc. So here we go. We closed basically right above this level of resistance. Everything is basically telling us to go long, right? On technicals, like technically it makes sense to go long because we closed above these levels of resistance. But because that VIX is very overextended to the downside, it makes me pretty excited to try to take a stab at shorts and to also go long VIX calls. So yeah, that's my thesis. Obviously we closed in a very bullish fashion to show the other side of the coin here. Obviously the MACD, we had a big move to the upside. The MACD barely moved up. So you can see the blue MACD line, you could look at it right here. It moved up from 2.63 to 2.72. So it moved up 9.09. It moved up 9 cents essentially. and that it moved up barely, but we had a big move in the SPY. So that is basically showing that there's potentially a big explosive move to the upside. So this is showing a lot of strength. Obviously, they're screaming strength at us. We closed above resistance. The MACD is showing a lot of strength. Obviously, the RSI is starting to show this strength much sooner than the MACD. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't really make sense. You know, sometimes when they have these extremely strong setups, you know, they don't let it play out as much. So, I mean, we're going to have to see if that plays out. But yeah, overall, my thesis is short, whatever. And we're going to get a big understanding of what happens by 2 p.m. So, yeah, hopefully the Fed minutes are it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the Fed minutes affect the market. Obviously, we're going to have a Fed blackout period late November or early December. So that is essentially the Fed stops. It's like a blackout. So what happened the last blackout period was they didn't. So basically, the market ended up really rallying the last time that they had the Fed blackout period. And as soon as the blackout period ended, Powell like dropped the hammer. So they were saying that it was because of the Wall Street Journal article that came out. So that caused the market to rally. So yeah, essentially, we're going to have to see what happens. I'm going to look more into this after the minutes come out, and we'll take a look a bit more deeply into that stuff over the weekend. But overall, yeah, things technical standpoint look very strong. But the only thing is the VIX. And then, of course, you know, let's take a look at the dollar. The dollar is also, I was showing how it wasn't showing as much strength yesterday. And basically, we had a red day, but we're still holding above levels of resistance at 107. So obviously, we know that if the dollar is showing weakness, then the stock market is also going to be showing weakness. And the bonds, obviously, it's not that important currently because the bonds only show a change in equity price if we get a strong close above or below levels of support and resistance. So right now, we're basically at the same level of resistance as we were a few days ago. You can see the MACD is falling lower, yet the bonds are moving higher, which shows that this is a lot of strength. And yeah, once again, the bonds are showing a lot of strength, and the equities MACD is also showing a lot of strength. So yeah, we basically just have to see if this level is going to fail on the bonds. If we end up reverting back a bit, that can mean a continuation to the upside in the dollar. And then the big question mark is going to be the VIX. How much lower can the VIX go? And how much lower are they going to want it to go, essentially? That's going to be pretty fun because this rarely ever happens. So when it does happen, it makes sense to take a stab at this. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.